before we started.
Hi, sorry we're already live. Hey guys, this is Eva. I'm the owner of Blooming Beats Kitchen and the co-founder. And so we're doing these Facebook Lives on Monday nights. And I usually bring you experts about something related to health, nutrition, environment. And so a couple weeks ago, or a few months ago actually, I've met this girl, Laura, and we go to the same Toastmasters group, and I saw her present about climate change in Boulder. And it's like, climate change is not something that I think about frequently, just to be perfectly honest. But when I saw her presentation, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I got really curious because she has compiled and analyzed research that just was like, wow, this is actually the climate change impact in Boulder County. So it was really interesting. So I invited her to come here and talk to us and share with us about what she has found out, and she's really awesome. She has so much passion. So here she is. Hi, Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Levesque, and I live in Louisville, part of Boulder County. I work for a renewable energy company, and I also I am a volunteer on Louisville's Sustainability Advisory Board.
Wow.
And what I wanted to share with you all tonight is some information about what's going to happen to Boulder County when it comes to climate change. So we hear about all of these different effects around the globe, different things that are happening that are affected by climate and climate damage. And one of the things I've always asked myself is, okay, that's in the distance, but what's happening right here close to where we are in our own hometown and in our county? And a very wonderful report came out just this past April from Resilient Analytics, and it looked at the climate change impact specific to Boulder County. And one of the presentations that I've given for our local Toastmasters group was talking about, here's all of these different consequences that we're going to see between now and 2050 right here in Boulder County. So usually when I present to people, I ask them, okay, well, what do you think is going to happen? What predictions do you have about how climate change will impact us right here? So I'll just pause for a moment and let you think about that. Think about what some of your predictions might be about climate change, and then I'll share a little bit of what's in that report with you.
That was really interesting because when I heard you present that, I was thinking like, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be like 1 or 2 degree change in a temperature over the next 50 years. And then I will let you
Sure.
share us with information.
Yeah, one of the things that most astonished me was that here in Boulder, we're going to be breaking all kinds of records about the temperature. So historically, Boulder gets about 5 days every year with temperatures of 95 degrees or higher, right? 5 days per year. Now, if you're thinking like I am, I think we've already hit that in Boulder so far, but the predictions will be that we're going to move from 5 to 38 days per year with temperatures of 95 degrees or higher.
38 days.
38 days between now and the year 2050. So get ready for some warm, sweltering days out there. If you don't have an air conditioner already, you might want to think about getting one installed into your home.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can imagine that with the temperatures rising as they are, that things will start to dry out. And you would be right about that. We're going to have higher incidence of severe drought. About 50% more drought between now and 2050. So that's going to affect our land, it's going to affect our agriculture, it's going to affect our water supplies.
I wonder how that's going to affect the farming in Boulder.
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be more irrigation, hopefully more smart irrigation, or maybe even changing out different crops.
Yeah. I talked to different farmers when I was setting up the restaurant. Sorry to jump in. I was looking for like, okay, where do we get food for this restaurant?
Yeah.
And so many people struggle with where do we get water from? and it's not easy. There's like farmland that the city of Boulder is trying to out-farm around the city to different farmers, and they don't want to take it because there's no water. So
that's true. I mean, we live in a high desert area, and water is a precious resource. So you have to think about how you're going to stretch out our water supply for now and for our kids and for our grandkids. So it's something to be very conscientious about.
yeah.
Another use right now in Boulder County, if you've looked out your window today and you see all the smoke that is everywhere
Yeah,
from
what
all
is
the
that?
wildfires, I guess there's a jet stream path that is just carrying the winds from California right up and over the country and dropping it right here.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Driving here, I was like, what's happening?
it's wildfire smoke. So that's another consequence that's very real for Boulder County as well. We have about 77,000 acres of forest lands in Boulder County, and our incidence for wildfire will just continue to increase between now and 2050, as well as financial damages that will happen because of burnt out areas, burnt homes, burnt forests. So the report that was done by Resilient Analytics predicts that there will be a 50% increase of financial loss due to wildfire damage.
Wow.
And this report also suggested to Boulder County, to the municipality, that we should set aside $20 million just for wildfire mitigation. It's a lot of money.
And that's for a year, do you know?
That's to increase into their budget. So I don't know how much budget they have right now to cut back forest lands and to build like firewalls between different areas, forests, and communities.
Yeah.
But the suggestion is, okay, set aside $20 million just to help combat and mitigate wildfire damage.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's another expense for us to look forward to. And I think it's interesting with climate change, a lot of times you see the converse of what's happening. So you see things burning up and getting drier, but then at the same time you also see these incidents of torrential downpours, and you're like, why is this dichotomy happening? Things are drying up, and then when we get rain, it's just gushing down so fast. And one of the concepts to keep in mind is that for every one degree of climate increase or temperature increase, the atmosphere can hold 4% more water vapor. So when you think about that and you think about how clouds are forming, it's all this water vapor that's coming together and forming clouds, and now you have bigger clouds, right? Because they're holding more water vapor. And when those clouds finally release, it's just way more intense than what we're used to. The clouds are just dumping and gushing water down onto the ground, and our soils like desperately need this water. It needs to absorb all of that. But what's happening is that it's coming down so fast that the earth just can't absorb it all at the same time. It's just, it's inundating the land, and so that's causing runoffs and flooding of our urban drainage systems for one, but also of our streets and our structures, homes, buildings. So that is something to be conscientious of as well. So hopefully that explanation of why our storms are seemingly more intense, that's actually happening. And one of the consequences for municipalities that they have to think about is, okay, well, now we have flooding of our roads. How are we going to fix that? Right now, we spend on average $650 per year for road maintenance.
And that's in
for
Boulder?
Every mile for Boulder County.
Boulder County.
All of this information is for the entirety of Boulder County.
Gotcha.
And what this report says is that you're going to have to budget a whole lot more for road maintenance. About double that will be needed to maintain roads just as they are, just so we can keep driving, but to mitigate it for the risk of flooding. And that's just for roads. bridges are even more expensive, right? So how do we build our bridges more smart? How do we repair bridges after the 2013 flood? You know, bridges were out all across the county, and we know how inconvenient that was. And so the cost associated for making bridges more resilient or replacing bridges is about $68 million, is what they're saying that Boulder County should budget between now and 2050 just for bridges.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, yes.
I'm curious about how our taxes are going to reflect in this.
You know, you think about that because if any of you were hit by the hail damage about a month or so ago, like we were in Louisville, you go to your insurance company and you say, okay, you know, my roof needs to be replaced now. Can you come out and give me some money because I've paid into the system for so long. Now it's the insurance time to pay you back in these times of damage, right? So somebody's gonna pay eventually, right? We're paying into the insurance companies in case that there's an incident like this. And now the insurance companies are paying out, but the insurance companies can't sustain that either. So I'm sure we're gonna all see an increase of our insurance policies, and cities are just the same way. You know, they have a set amount of money that they collect from all of us, and they try to budget as smart as possible. And this is a whole other area that I think communities are not used to budgeting for.
Right.
You know, we're used to budgeting for growth and building and improvements. And the strange thing about climate change, and maybe I'll coin a new term tonight, I'll call it climate damage, is that we're going to be paying a whole lot more money just to maintain the status quo of what we have today.
That's true, and people, we're going to be complaining about, okay, we have to pay more taxes, more insurance. Speaking about when you were talking about the fires, you know, I used to live in Boulder Heights. And you just never know. You're like, is this house going to burn down or not? And like realizing that the risk of fires is going to multiply.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, another thing that comes along with climate change too is if you have allergies, seasonal allergies, like I have seasonal allergies, and probably a lot of us out there, and maybe some of us are feeling it too right now with the wildfire smoke that's out there. We're going to be more sensitized to allergies because the allergy season is going to start much earlier in the spring, and it will last much longer in the fall. So stock up on Kleenex and Allegra, I suppose.
And do you know why that is? Is it because the temperatures are higher, or?
Yeah, our growing season is getting extended.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if this is accurate, but I heard someone say if any of you are gardeners out there and you plant vegetables, our growing zone in Boulder is zone 5. So when you look at the back of the seed packets and you're trying to figure out, you know, how to grow, when to plant seeds into the ground and when to harvest and do all of that, what I heard is that it's getting warmer, that we've moved up to zone 6 in Boulder County. Now, don't take my word for that. I've just heard that from someone else. But it's because our growing season is longer, and all of those weeds are firing up earlier in the season, and they're living longer, and they are projecting all the way through the fall season.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So health expenses is another thing to take into consideration. You know, stocking up on all these supplies to combat the runny noses and the full heads that you have. So the other thing too is a greater incidence of West Nile. So they've said that to be aware that that will be infectious disease, and like the Zika virus that we had a few years ago down in Florida, incidents like that will become more prevalent throughout the U.S., but specifically to Colorado and to Boulder County, to be on the alert for West Nile virus. Yeah. So one of the other interesting tidbits coming from this resilient analytics report. They looked at, okay, here's all the things that are happening in Boulder County that are going to affect its population, and how will the municipality budget for all of these components. And one of the things that's just mind-blowing to me is the cost that they projected, and they say this is a estimated conservative figure, but they've priced it anywhere between $96 million to $157 million is what Boulder might be looking at in terms of climate change adaptation, climate change repairs. So that's an awful lot of money.
It is. How many people live in Boulder? Like 100,000?
That's a good question. Have to look that
Something
one up.
like that, right?
Possibly some of you watching this live might know.
Something like that. So I was like trying to figure out in my head how much is that per person.
Yeah.
That's seems like a lot of money per person.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see how they align themselves to be able to accommodate for those extra increases.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we can do as citizens is get to know our elected officials, see how they are handling their budget. Are they incorporating any of this into their budget plannings? A lot of times towns are on 2-year budgets. Like I know our city of Louisville is on a 2-year budget. Mm-hmm. But I also can say that being on Louisville Sustainability Board, one of the most powerful things that the citizens can do is just go to a meeting. Just go to city council meeting, or to, if your city or town has a sustainability board, just go to one of the sustainability board meetings, listen in, see what they have to say. And if you go to a city council meeting, one practice that's very common is when you go in the very beginning of the session, they have their agenda, right? And you can always look up the agenda online beforehand and see if, pick a session where there's some interesting topics to you. But regardless of that, there's always the opportunity in the beginning of a city council session for open comments from the public. So it doesn't have to be written in the agenda, but if you feel passionate about something, or you just want to make a point, or let's not forget, let's just thank people for the work that they've done, right? We live in a crazy time. We forget to say thank you, and we forget to appreciate and be in gratitude for projects that people are already working on. But it's something that I would encourage you to think about. If you just have 3 minutes, go to your city council meeting, show up, say, I want to talk, get up there, and you're allotted 3 minutes, but you can make a public comment to your elected city officials, and you can say whatever is on your mind. So
how many people are usually in these meetings?
For our town, there's 7 elected officials.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting up on the dais, and there's some other staff members there too, but all of that is recorded. And I think a lot of times elected officials, they take direction and inspiration from what their citizenry is telling them.
How many people from Louisville show up that are not on the board? Is it pretty full usually?
It depends. For every meeting, there's different topics that come up. So if there's a real heated debate, the room might be filled. But sometimes it's quite quiet.
Yeah.
And it really just depends. But I've kind of toyed around with this idea for a while now that I've called drinks and declarations. And so I thought, okay, well, how can we add some fun into inspiring people to come?
Drinks and declarations?
Drinks and declarations. You heard it here first. But my concept would be grab some of your friends, grab some of your neighbors, go out, have a happy hour ahead of time, socialize a little bit, get to know your community, and then just walk right over to City Hall when the meeting starts.
Don't get hammered before
don't get too, well, actually, I don't know, maybe you'll have a little bit more liquid bravery, right, with a cocktail. But, it's really nice to do things as groups, and you feel more empowered and a little bit more strong and brave. I know I do at least. So drinks and declarations is this concept of go out, have a good time, socialize, pull a couple people together to go with you, to support you at the city council meeting, and just get up. It's 3 minutes. You don't even have to take up the 3 minutes. If you just want to say, thank you, Boulder, for your commitment to renewable electricity and all of the sustainability efforts, and even for the putting budget behind doing this report that I referenced before from Resilient Analytics that was just done in April. So it can be just a simple thank you, or it can be, here's something I've been thinking about. I just want you to know what's on my mind. Anything at all. I know those people are really appreciative when the public comes out and offers them some feedback.
That's really cool. And I know like a lot of people who are watching this are really passionate about a lot of things, especially health related, sustainability too, but also like health. And there's like a lot of discussions about Roundup being on the shelves at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And that would be an interesting discussion to bring to too. So
yeah, I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but that's something very near and dear to me too, because I'm an amateur beekeeper. And you've heard all kinds of reports out there about the colony collapse disorder, the bees are dying off, what can we do about this? And there's so many different reasons why it's happening. But when you get down to the end of the day and you say, how can we fix this? In my opinion, it just goes back to common sense. Like grow clean food. Don't use Roundup, don't use neonicotinoids, don't pollute your food. Just eat healthy. And I know that would be a big shift of moving from industrialized agriculture to perhaps smaller scale agriculture. There's something called regenerative agriculture, which Eva knows about it, but for those of you who don't, it's about really using compost, putting compost back into the land instead of using fertilizer on those big tracts of agricultural land. In fact, Boulder County is doing a pilot on this. They're calling it, it's called a carbon sequestration pilot project that they're doing. And they're taking compost material. So if you compost, all of that is going to the compost facility. I think most of it's going to A1 Organics over there in Weld County. And they need a market for all of their compost materials, right? So this is a great way to use that compost material, buy it back from A1 Organics, use it as a fertilizer, put it on Boulder County's agricultural lands instead of fertilizer. One thing also to keep in mind, fertilizers and nitrous oxide, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 300 times more potent of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide is.
Wow.
I mean, fertilizer is really in high concentration of greenhouse gases. So having compost to use instead not only sequesters and takes methane and carbon or greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, but now we're reapplying it in a safe form to enrich the soil and make it more nutritive with trace minerals, trace nutrients in there to replenish our soils and grow healthier, more pest and blight resistant crops. So keep your eyes out for that. I think it's going to be very successful.
Can anybody buy that compost from Avon?
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm not a grower. I tried to grow a basil plant once and it didn't survive, but a lot of people are interested in this.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure. I mean, it's a huge facility out there, and I'm sure their buyers would be buying from the truckload. I'm not sure if you could buy just a little bag of compost, although I'm sure probably Western Disposal or places like that might offer just bags as well.
That's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm just really curious. How did you get into all this? Like, how did this become your passion?
Well, little me grew up on a farm,
Yeah.
in Connecticut, which I know when people think of Connecticut, they think proximity to the big city, but that's not the entire state. There's a lot of the state, and a lot of New England is very agricultural still. And that's the part of the state where I grew up, on a farm. And my parents were real just salt of the earth type people. How can we live off the land? So we, every summer, had a massive garden. I mean, huge.
Oh, yeah.
And I was little slave labor, picking weeds, you know, picking the vegetables. And we had a massive kitchen table where just, it was like a production line. You would chop, peel, freeze, can, you name it. There was always activity going on in the kitchen. And so growing up on a farm, I think it just was built into the type of person that I am. So yeah, so I you know, moved away from the farm and went to work in the big city of Manhattan, and so that was satisfying for a while, but then after a couple years I'm like, man, I need greenery again. So moved out of the big city, and sustainability has always been a part of who I am, and now I feel really grateful that I'm able to put that into practice, both with my career and also giving back and serving my local community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living?
I sell solar heating hot tub covers. So
Cool.
it's a new product, not out there on the market yet, and if any of you have a hot tub, come talk to me. But it's a pretty interesting innovation where hot tub covers are usually just foam wrapped up in vinyl,
Right.
and they're there to insulate and keep the heat in your spot. Our design has changed all of that completely. So we've gotten rid of the foam, and we've replaced it with a solar cover. So if your hot tub is in the sun, it can just absorb those sun's rays, convert it into heating for your spa. And also the cover itself is made of a polycarbonate hard plastic. So we've replaced the foam in there. So the integrity of the cover stays even if you get a bad hailstorm or tons of snow. It's better insulating, doesn't sag, you know, doesn't waterlog. So it's pretty cool. The product is called Sun Catcher, and it's made by Aztec Energy, which is the company that I work for.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
So is there anything else, anything we should be doing other than going to council meetings to help, you know, not just like, okay, make sure we can pay for this stuff, but also like improve how the climate change is going right now?
Right, I think that we have a pretty educated population in Boulder County, so some of the things that I say are probably things that you've put in practice already, but just changing some of the things of your lifestyle, like recycling, ditching the plastic water bottle, you know, maybe use, you know, refillable water bottles instead of the one-use disposable. That's a big thing. Composting yourself, recycling yourself, and trying to minimize the amount of trash that you have. So there was this statistic that a third of our methane emissions come from landfill. And a big chunk of that comes from food that we've not eaten that gets thrown into the landfills, and when it decomposes, it releases methane. So trying to be more conscientious about reducing, maybe buying less things, using up what you have, repairing what you have, and if it breaks, can you repair it before buying a brand new one? Also, using your dollar smartly, you know, trying to buy and support more local businesses, more local farmers. Divesting, I know that's a huge piece of the movement that 350.org is trying to do, to have divestiture from big corporations and investment firms that are promoting dirty sources of energy. And I think also what speaks to me personally is to have fun with it all. You know, sometimes you feel like you're in an island and you're doing all of these things and you're like, okay, what else can I be doing? Well, what about just simply going out and meeting up with other kindred spirits and having fun and sharing ideas and just talking about some of these efforts that we're all going through together? And so there's some really good organizations in Boulder County. I like the Boulder Green Drinks. There's the 350.org, the Sierra Club, Climate Reality. I don't know how many of you have taken the training from Al Gore like I have, but Climate Reality has a Boulder Denver chapter. And yeah, there's a lot of really great meetup groups. I would encourage you to just get out there and meet some other like-minded people.
Awesome. Yeah, whenever we post a replay, feel free to post some links underneath of what people can do, where they can go.
Okay, great.
All right. So
You've got low battery.
I've got low battery. That's okay. It always happens.
Oh.
This eats a battery fast. Here we go. Okay. So anything else you want to add to this?
I would just say thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for listening.
Well, thank you for coming. And next week, I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I'll be here with somebody, and it's going to be interesting as always. So you're going to learn. So thank you for watching, and come to Blooming Beats if you haven't been. Duh. And I will see you guys next week.